Governor Udom Emmanuel sympathizes with Nigerians, especially Akwa Ibomites, over cash swap policy. On a foreign scene, Turkey-Syria earthquake death toll soars nearly to 16,000. And in sports, Benzema, Militao to join Madrid before Club World Cup final. Details coming up shortly. Good afternoon and welcome to the news on Planet Radio 101.1 FM Rio. I am Raymond Ita. Our first report this afternoon is that the Akwa Ibom State Governor Udom Emmanuel has inaugurated the State Drug Control Committee (SDCC) in the state with the aim of intensifying awareness for drugs prevention and to also support the framework for all drugs reduction activities in the state. Speaking during the inauguration ceremony held at the State ESCO chambers of the Government House, Governor Emmanuel said controlling the circulation of illicit drugs and consumption was necessary in view of the increasing number of youths going into drugs and in order to curb the level of social vices carried out through the influence of the drugs. He charged the committee led by the wife of the governor, Dr. Martha Emmanuel, to channel the same passion and commitment in the fight against rape and child abuse towards the fight against drug abuse.
The terms of reference are: number one, to liaise with NDLEA and relevant agencies towards scaling awareness for drugs prevention in the state. 2, to support the framework for all drugs reduction activities in the state. 3, to advise government in the intrastate intervention options. 4, to generate data and report-based drugs prevention program and any other activity that they may deem fit and necessary in order to minimize the influence, the impact, and the effect of what this is having in the society.
He appreciated the efforts and the results achieved by the State Commandant of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Obert Bassi, and expressed optimism that more hands will be on deck to nip the menace in the bud. In an interview with journalists, the chairperson of the committee, Dr. Martha Emmanuel, said the committee is committed to the mandate given to them and will identify all the addicts in order to counsel and rehabilitate them, while ensuring that the defiant are made to face the full wrath of the law.
What we are going to gain from this committee is that we will fight against drug abuse, especially in the lives of our children, and we will see a reduction in drug abuse in the state. And we will also make sure that those that provide these drugs, we will sensitize them. Those that will not listen to us, they will face the wrath of the law. In fact, on Friday, by the grace of God, I'm going to commission a rehabilitation center built by FEREP, donating to the NDLEA to rehabilitate those that are drug addicts.
Government House correspondent Jane Uwa reports that the committee is made up of 13 persons drawn from various ministries and parastatals, including the state commandants of the NDLEA, Obert Bassi. In the meantime, Governor Udom Emmanuel has sympathized with Nigerians, especially Akwa Ibomites, over the cash swap policy which has caused the scarcity of Naira Notes nationwide, urging them to adjust their lifestyle to fit in with the current reality. Governor Emmanuel has stated this at the ESCO chambers, Government House Uyo, called on the people to embrace alternative means of business transaction in order to reduce the difficulty that accompanies the cashless policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. According to him, the policy was not given adequate awareness before its implementation.
We all seem handicapped right now. Only 2 people can make a change on this whole matter: the Commander-in-Chief and the Central Bank government. They are the ones the law allows to do anything now. So assuming they don't change, what will now change? It means we'll change our lifestyle and we change our ways of doing things. So it's a very dicey situation in that, number one, the awareness were not created. So that's why it seems as if it's taking everybody on our ways. This is something awareness could have been done for at least 1 year, so that people could find alternatives. Those who are not prepared will set up the infrastructure in place. The situation is very critical.
He, however, used the occasion to appeal to point-of-sale operators in the state and agents to review their charges per withdrawal. in order not to increase the sufferings Nigerians are currently facing. Meanwhile, residents of Uyo, the Akwa Ibomites state capital, have lamented the unavailability of the redesigned Naira Notes and charges from point-of-sale operators POS. While speaking to Planet News, they complained that most POS have closed down, while some have no new notes to pay due to the situation, stressing that few that have charge exorbitantly.
I went to get money. The crowd was too much and I didn't have any money on me. So coming out, I had to trek. I went to the POS. They didn't have. I've been to like 10 POS. There was no money anywhere. And even the bank, they are still giving old notes. So when you want to get something from these local people who don't understand how the system works, they will reject the money. They'll say they are looking for the new note and the bank are not issuing the new note.
Also speaking, the POS operators said the 10% and above charges on every transaction were due to insufficient circulation of the redesigned Naira note and the stress involved in obtaining them from the ATMs and the banks.
I'm using money to buy money now because there's no money from business center now, like supermarket, filling station like that. When you go there, you have to buy the money. You see deposit the money for them.
To the national scene now, where the federal government, through the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has filed an objection against the Supreme Court ruling which halted the February 10 deadline for old Naira notes to remain in circulation. The AGF, in a preliminary objection filed through his lawyers Tijani Ghazali and Mahmoud Magaji, argued that the Supreme Court lacked the jurisdiction to entertain the matter. The AGF contended that the plaintiffs have equally not shown reasonable course of action against the defendants. Recall that the Central Bank of Nigeria had, after redesigning the 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes, fixed January 31 as the deadline for old Naira notes to exist as a means of transaction. But following the difficulties in getting the newly redesigned notes, the Apex Bank extended the deadline to February 10. And despite protests emanating from the scarcity of cash across the country, the CBN Governor Udom Emmanuel had last week said the February 10 deadline would not be extended. However, aggrieved governors of Kogi, Kaduna and Zamfara states elected under the platform of the All Progressives Congress APC headed for the courts to challenge the CBN, demanding for extension of the deadline. The ruling in the matter, a Supreme Court panel led by Justice John Okoro yesterday halted the federal government's move to execute the February 10 deadline. Away from that, the Nigerian Army has warned its officers and men against any unlawful conduct during the next general elections. Director of Exams, Department of Army Standard and Evaluation, Brigadier General Adamu Yari Yakubu, gave the warning during a visit to troops of the Guards Brigade. The General and his team were at the Brigade Force Operations Base in Kwali Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory. It asked the soldiers to ensure a secured and peaceful environment for all voters. Yakubu commended the level of preparation by the combined troops, adding that synergy is key towards ensuring a hitch-free election. Yakubu also advised Nigerians to conduct themselves in a lawful manner, stressing that electoral violence would not be tolerated. Still on electoral matters, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Baba Al-Khali, has set up an election planning, monitoring and evaluation team which will be deployed across all states of the Federation ahead of the general elections. The team is tasked to identify, analyze and mitigate threats, as well as carry out on-the-spot assessment and appraisal of the security emplacement ahead of the 2023 general elections. Baba, while reiterating the commitment of the police to ensuring that the elections are safe, secure, credible, and in line with global best practices, tasked the team to, among other things, ensure the propriety of deployment, give real-time coverage of the electoral process, and safeguard against hostile external and internal influence using International Criminal Police Organization, Interpol, anti-cybercrime and intelligence tools, as well as assets of the Nigeria Police Force. The Inspector General of Police therefore called on well-meaning Nigerians, international communities and all stakeholders to support the Nigeria Police Force teams in all areas, particularly on intelligence sharing and regular engagement to achieve success in the general elections. You're listening to the news on Planet Radio 101.1 FM Uyo. We'll take a breather, and when we come back, there's more stories from our foreign sport and entertainment scenes. Please stay with us.
Healthy living begins with the choices one makes. Choosing to live healthy is the first step to healthy living. Join us Sundays 1:30 to 2 p.m. for Healthway. Awareness for healthy choices.
About 16,000 people are now known to have died after Monday's earthquakes in southern Turkey and northern Syria. Reports say without shelter, water, fuel or electricity, the World Health Organization fears many survivors could yet lose their lives. It expressed fear of a possibility of a secondary disaster which may cause harm to more people than the initial quake. Meanwhile, rescuers are continuing their painstaking work, but hopes are fading for the many still trapped under the rubble. And now in sports, Real Madrid coach Carlo Ancelotti says Karim Benzema and Militao would fly out to join their teammates after injury ahead of the Club World Cup final on Saturday. The German missed the 4-1 win over Egypt Al Ahly in the semi-final on Wednesday, but might be fit to take part against Al Hilal at the weekend. Both Benzema and Militao had thigh issues which kept them out of the defeat by Real Mallorca last weekend in La Liga as well. Meanwhile, goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois will not be ready, along with other injured players, including Ferland Mendy and Eden Hazard. On the entertainment scene, Rihanna fans are reportedly anticipating her performance at the Super Bowl with a halftime show, one of the biggest and most prestigious gigs in music. Reports say the singer will perform during the break when the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. Rihanna has not toured or released an album since 2016's Anti. The star has instead focused on her fashion brand and last year welcomed her first child. However, she did record a new song last year for Marvel's Wakanda Forever, Lift Me Up, which features on the soundtrack to the Black Panther sequel and marked Rihanna's first new solo single for 6 years and has been nominated for an Oscar. It's been the news on Planet Radio 101.1 FM here, but just before we go, here's a recap of the major stories. The federal government, through the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, has filed an objection against the Supreme Court's ruling, which halted the February 10 deadline for old Naira Notes to remain in circulation. The Nigerian Army has warned its officers and men against unlawful conduct during the next general elections. Governor Udom Emmanuel has sympathized with Nigerians, especially Akwa Ibomites, over the cash swap policy, which has caused the scarcity of Naira nationwide, urging them to adjust their lifestyle to fit in with the current reality. On the foreign scene, we told you that about 16,000 people are now known to have died after Monday's earthquakes in southern Turkey and northern Syria. And in sports, Real Madrid coach Carlo Ancelotti says Karim Benzema and Militao will fly out to join their teammates after injury ahead of the Club World Cup final on Saturday. For comments and coverage of your newsworthy events, call our newsroom on 0812-770-2940. Visit our website on planet101fm.ng and follow us on Twitter at planet_101fm. Also like our Facebook page at Planet101fm. Uyo. But the news was edited by Jane Uwa. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Raymond Eater. Good afternoon.